It is so fascinating. Yeah. So I'll just tell you the nature of this memory. Okay. So see, it is like this. Everything from the highest level to the lowest level, everything is there. Whatever you can think of is there at the highest level in potentiality only, not form. Because on the highest level, there is only one. There is a divine. But the divine contains everything, but contains everything in seed form, not in the tree form. Okay? So, but when it comes down, there's a gradation and it becomes more and more dense, more and more formed. Okay. So if we take up memory, what happens to memory at the highest level? What happens to memory at the spiritual levels? What happens to memory at our ignorant level? And what happens to memory in matter? Okay. It's very interesting. Just think about it. I'm going to give it to you. Okay. And you think about it. Memory in the divine, does the divine need memory? Because there is no time and there is no space there. So the divine does not need memory, but he has the knowledge of everything. Because memory is what? We have the knowledge of what happened in the past. That is, we have the knowledge. Na? So in the supreme state of the divine, he has all the knowledge already. So he doesn't need memory. So memory becomes knowledge at the highest level in the divine. But as it comes down, the knowledge becomes less and less, more and more clouded, more and more limited, isn't it? So when it comes down into the spiritual planes of consciousness, which is next, what happens is that your memory is still very large. It covers a huge amount, not only this life, but also your past lives. Sometimes even your future lives also, you come to know. Okay? Then you come down to our level. Okay? At the spiritual level. When you come down to the spiritual level, you remember your past life to a certain extent. Now, that's memory. Memory is very vast and large in the spiritual plane of consciousness. You know your past lives. But then when you come down to our condition, what happens? We have memory only maybe 7, 8 years or sometimes even less. As you keep growing older and older, memory starts becoming less and less until finally we don't even remember. If you are a dementia patient or Alzheimer's, you don't even remember what happened one day ago, even sometimes even 1 minute ago. Okay? But normal man has a memory extending sometimes up to his childhood. But certainly, hardly any man, normal man, has a memory of when he was born and how he was born. So there is a limit. And the future is absolutely closed. We don't know. So this is the memory, highest level knowledge. At the spiritual level, knowledge extending to a vast level into the past and the future, including your past lives. When you come down to our level, it becomes even more restricted. The scope becomes restricted. And we know only for a certain number of years, and that also only in the past. Now, what happens when it goes into the matter? Because as I said, everything is there, and even memory becomes in matter also it is there. So what form does it take there? Srebno says it becomes the laws of nature. Because the earth remembers. I'm using words which you have to interpret correctly. The earth remembers that it has to go around the sun. So it becomes a habit. It becomes a law. So this is the very interesting. And this, what we are applying to memory, can apply to everything. From the highest level to the lowest level, everything is there in graded forms. This is what yesterday, what he has said in his own words. But in simpler words, this is what we have to understand. Okay? So now, I have given you what I found during, the ideas went on striking me during the day. And now we will read the importance of memory. So yesterday, Archana started, and today, Sumki can read or Shilpa can read. Sumki and Shilpa will have it. Nice conversation.
Shall I read?
Yes, Shilpa, read. Okay.
Okay.
The importance of memory.
The importance of memory becomes apparent in the well observed phenomenon of double personality or disassociation of personality, in which the same man has two successive or alternating states of his mind, and each remembers and coordinates perfectly only what he was or did in that state of mind, and not what he was or did in the other. This can be associated with an organized idea of different personality, for he thinks in one state that he is one person and in the other that he is quite another with a different name, life, and feelings. Here it would seem that memory is the whole substance of personality. But on the other side, we must see that disassociation of memory occurs also without disassociation of personality. As when a man in the state of hypnosis takes up a range of memories and experiences to which his waking mind is a stranger, but does not therefore think himself another person, or as one who has forgotten the past events of his life and perhaps even his name, still does not change his ego sense and personality. And there is possible too a state of consciousness in which, although there is no gap of memory, yet by rapid development the whole being feels itself changed in every mental circumstances, and the man feels born into a new personality, so that if it were not for the coordinating mind, he would not at all accept his past as belonging to the person he now is, although he remembers perfectly well that it was in the same form of body and same field of mind substance that it occurred. Mind sense is the basic memory, the thread on which experiences are strung by the self experiencing mind. But it is the coordinating faculty of mind which, relating together all the material that memory provides and all its linking of past, present, and future, relates them also to an I who is the same in all the movements of time and in spite of all the changes of experience and personality.
Very interesting paragraph. Yeah, very interesting paragraph. And he is discussing the phenomenon of split personality. Okay, so most of you maybe know about it, but it's a very interesting discussion what he's saying. So memory plays a very important role. Now, everybody, all of us who are there, we have had many past lives. But normally what happens is those past lives, the events are forgotten, and only the essence of what that life had experiences that is retained. That is how the psychic being grows slowly. So, just before we start discussing this, what happens? So, suppose in one life I am a soldier. Okay, I may forget the events in the next life. I may forget the events of that past life. But what I will have gained from there is when you are a soldier, you have to face situations which require bravery, courage, okay, determination. So all these things are passed on to the psychic being in essence, but not the events. Events also can be recovered with memory, but normally this is what happens. And the past life, if we remember all the details, then we will actually be hampered in our next life. So, next life, you want to develop some other characteristic, let us say generosity. So, you have to forget about what you did in the past life. So, a new body, new mind, and new life is given to you, and you experience in this life, let us say generosity. Then that again, the essence of generosity is added to the psychic being, and it again takes another birth. Like that, it goes on accumulating experiences so that there's a growth in the psychic being. This is a normal procedure. But what happens is that sometimes these experiences of one life are normally put away and not allowed to interfere with the present life. Because if it interferes in the present life, there is chaos. And that is exactly the phenomenon of split personality. You happen to remember even the events and the person that you were in that life. So you are a generous person in this life, but suddenly the past life of your soldier also comes up. So it has not completely been put away into the background. Somehow or other it happens. So in this life, I am both a generous man and I am also a soldier. And this you go on oscillating between these two memories. This is the split personality that he's talking about. It's very interesting. And if you go to the internet and see, sometimes there are cases where not one or two, but many, many lives. In one case, they claim 27 lives he remembers, and he goes on switching. Okay, there's a very interesting video also of that on the internet, where the person is saying, "I am," say, let us say, it's a lady. So let us say she is Jane, and then suddenly she feels that the memory of that other person, okay, is coming in. So let us say she is June. So she tells the interviewer on the video that now I can feel June interfering and I will forget what Jane is. And then she starts behaving in a totally different way. Totally different way. Even the memory, even the voice changes. So this is a split personality. In the West, in America, the discovery of split personality was found in the 1950s. And there's a very interesting movie on that, and the movie is available on the internet. Okay, you can actually download it and see. It's called The Two Faces of Eve, EVE. This is a lady who is to pretend, not pretend, we live one life and another life, completely different. So this is what we are discussing here. So very interesting phenomenon. Normally, but if everybody had a split personality, there will be total chaos. So it doesn't usually happen. Okay. So, and fortunately so. So now we read, with this background, we will read what he said. The importance of memory becomes apparent in the well-observed phenomenon of double personality or dissociation of personality, in which the same man has two successive or alternating states of his mind, and in each remembers and coordinates perfectly only what he was or did in that state of mind, and not what he was or did in the other. Now, certainly another thing has struck me, and I'll share it with you. We have a psychiatrist in the ashram. Now, he is a doctor, but mainly he is a psychiatrist. His name is Alok Pandey. Most of you will know him. Certainly, we will know him, Alok Pandey. And he told me a very interesting case. There was a case of a man who had abandoned the army. Okay, and you know that if you abandon, go away from the army, you are actually court-martialed. You can't do that, because in war, if someone runs away, then what will happen to the army if everybody starts running away? So they are court-martialed. Now this man, he was in Lucknow, okay, and he was found after 7-8 years, and the army said that we have to court-martial him. So he was handed over to a psychiatrist, and he had to examine this man and why he had given the. And he found a very interesting thing. He found that this man who was in the army suddenly lost his personality of the present, completely blank, and he went somewhere else altogether, into another area altogether. It may have been Kashmir or something, and he was living a totally different life. He was living the life of a mechanic or something like that. Then after 7-8 years of that, when he came back, okay, he was caught. And then Alok Pandey had to tell the army people that this is a phenomenon that can happen in psychologically it can happen, and he is not responsible. He has not really run away out of cowardice or anything. He has not done that willingly. It's a phenomenon that happened with him. So This is exactly the same thing. So somebody is saying, observe phenomenon of double personality or dissociation of personality in which the same man has two successive or alternative states of mind. Now the successive is a case that I told you just now. Okay, it happens successively for 7 years. It happened successively, but it can also be alternating states of mind. That is normally the split personality. So you can see very clearly how Sridhar is covering. And sometimes the successive can only be two states following each another, not necessarily repeated. Even that is possible. Okay, successive. But alternative, series of successions, repetition of successive states. This is the difference between successive and alternative. Successive can be, you have completely changed and you are no more the old man. But alternating states can be, now I am Jane, now I am June, now I am Jane, now I am June. You can see that movie is a very interesting movie. And then it discovered that this lady was behaving in a totally different way, not pretending. She was not pretending, she was completely ignorant of the other person. Okay, so that's what is the split personality. And memory is playing a great role in all this. So this is what Sridhar is discussing here. I go to the next sentence. Or rather, the same sentence I have to continue. Dissociation of personality in which the same man has two successive or alternating states of his mind, and in each remembers and coordinates perfectly only what he was or did in that state of mind and not what he was or did in the other. This can be associated with an organized idea of different personality, for he thinks in one state that he is one person and in the other that he is quite another with a different name, different life and different feelings. Here it would seem that memory is the whole substance of personality. But on the other side, we must see that dissociation, just one second. My computer is playing games with me, that's why. Okay, just one second. Yeah. Here it would seem that memory is the whole substance of personality because he remembers what he was, and therefore you must say that memory is the main thing. But on the other side, we must see that dissociation of memory occurs also without dissociation of personality. Now, what's he saying? Let's look carefully. We must see that dissociation of memory goes away completely, occurs also without dissociation of personality. This is the phenomenon of dementia. That's what he's saying. There is memory is gone, but the personality is the same. So this is the how there are three cases he is giving you. Okay, the first case, you become a totally different man for life entirely. That is successive state. The other one is alternately you are becoming. But then there is the other phenomena where the memory disappears, but the personality does not change. He remembers it, he doesn't remember, but he knows who he is because the ego is still there. So, but on the other side, we must see that dissociation of memory occurs. He's using the word dissociation. Why? Because with the person. The memory is associated with the personality, and the memory can be dissociated from the personality. You have dementia. Okay. Occurs also without dissociation of personality. There you are. As when a man in the state of hypnosis takes up a range of memories and experiences to which his waking mind is a stranger, but does not therefore think himself to be another person. Or as when one who has forgotten the past events of his life and perhaps even his name still does not change his ego sense and personality. Here also he has discussed three cases. Okay, so the first case is that of dementia. Okay, person is the same. The person is the same. Nature does not change. He is the same, but he doesn't remember anything at all, even what happened 5 minutes ago. This is the dementia case. This is one case. He is making it. He is discussing memory and ego. We must not confuse the two. So that's what he is discussing in this paragraph, in this chapter. So the first is when dementia, the person remains the same, but the memory is gone. As then there is another case where the man remains the same, but the memory is of something else. So that's as when a man in the state of hypnosis. So you know what happens in hypnosis. Actually, Yasmin even tried but could not be because she has got a strong will. Those who have a strong will, okay, and don't want to be dominated by others, you stand in your own personality, you can't be hypnotized. You can be hypnotized only if you agree to surrender to the hypnotizer. Then you obey him. And he says, I'll count 10 and you will fall asleep. You will fall asleep. Then he will take you into your intraconscious and tell you to examine your life when you were 10 years old, 5 years old. That is what is called regression. So you get that. And when you go there, you remember many things which you remember in your past life, but the personality remains the same. Okay? So this is one. That's what he is also saying. And when the person comes out of that intraconscious experience of hypnosis, he doesn't remember at all what he has said. Okay? This also can happen. But sometimes he can remember also what he has said. There are all sorts of cases. Nothing is fixed in the spiritual fields and in existence. Nothing is absolutely fixed. So this is what he's saying. Okay? He's saying as when a man in a state of hypnosis takes up a range of memories and experiences to which his waking mind is a stranger, but does not therefore think himself another person. You know that now why they do the regression. Because suppose you have a complex, you go to a psychiatrist, you are afraid of water, let us say, but you don't remember why you are afraid of water. So the psychiatrist takes you into your intraconscious, makes you relive what you were when you were 15 years old. And if he does not find any phenomenon there, he takes you to when you were 10 years old. And then he takes you to when you are 5 years old. And finally there he may discover that maybe your parents had put you in a tub of water, but the water was not shallow enough. And the person had experienced a sense of drowning. So that is the cause of the fear of water. So he removes it again by treatment and he says, we remove that, we go back to where you were and remove the fear. So this is how they treat. Okay. So, but the treatment is not always 100% sure. It can happen, it may not happen also. So this is what Sri is saying. So in the state of hypnosis, personality does not change. Just as in the case of dementia, very similar. But memory is not there in dementia. But here, the memory is there of past lives, but the personality does not change. Okay? So, range of memories and experiences to which his waking mind is a stranger, but does not therefore think himself another person. Or as when one has forgotten the past events of his life, and perhaps even his name, still does not change his ego sense and personality. This also, remember, what is it called? A loss of memory. There is a word for it. The word is not coming. All of you know, when it happens sometimes, when a person completely loses his memory of, say, an accident or something like that. What is it called? The word is not coming right now. Loss of memory completely. Anyway, it will come. Okay. So that can also happen. He does not therefore think himself. And perhaps even his name. Sometimes you forget even your name. Huh? Pardon?
Amnesia.
That's the word, amnesia. Correct. You are right, Sunki. Amnesia. That also can happen. It can happen very often also after an accident. Okay? Suddenly the thing changes and the structure of your brain changes and you completely forget the past. So that also can happen. Okay, so many cases he is telling you. So now you can see clearly the difference between the ego, the personality, and the memory. So memory is something so interesting. We normally combine and think it is natural. It is not. It's a capacity that can be there. It need not be there. It can be there partially. All these things in discussing. Okay, so, and there is possible too, another case, a state of consciousness in which, although there is no gap of memory, yet by a rapid development, the whole being feels itself changed in every mental circumstance, and the man feels born into a new personality, so that if it were not for the coordinating mind, he would not at all accept his past as belonging to the person he now is, although he remembers perfectly well that it was the same form of body and same field of mind substance that it occurred. Now this huge sentence he is referring to the yogic phenomenon. Okay? You are a person and you are, let us say, miserly, okay, and you are greedy. But with yoga, your personality completely changes. But you are the same person. But you wonder, I used to be so miserly and I used to get so angry, but all those things are completely gone. I have a new personality. How come? You remember, but the personality has changed. See how he's playing with all these things. This is what happens to in a yogic experience. Your old nature, imperfect nature disappears. And your miserliness completely goes away. Your tendency of anger also completely goes away. And you wonder, oh my God, I used to be so angry. Now anger is not even coming to me. How come? So person is the same. No, sorry. Memory is the same. You know what you were, but the nature has changed. The personality has changed. So many different cases he is discussing. How interesting it is. Okay. So now I read the next sentence. Okay. Mind sense is the basis, memory the thread on which experiences are strung by the self-experiencing mind. But it is the coordinating faculty of mind which, relating together all the material that memory provides and all its linkings of past, present, and future, relates them also to an I, who is the same in all the moments of time and in spite of all the changes of experience and personality. So, personality is your present nature in this life, but your I is the true individuality which is there behind. Okay? And note also that the true I of everybody is different. That's the Jivatma. It is different, it is not the same. They are all coming from the divine, but you have all the souls are divine in essence, but when they come down, they have different characteristics. So this is what he is saying in this paragraph. Fascinating. I have read this before, but I have made a summary also of it. But it is so interesting what he is saying. I hope you also followed the phenomena. So many different things can happen. Okay, so I'll read the summary. All right, so it's very interesting. The cardinal importance of memory is clearly seen in the phenomenon of split personality. A double or multiple personality victim envisages himself. Okay? Yeah. Envisage, I'll read again. The cardinal importance of memory is clearly seen in the phenomenon of split personality. A double or multiple personality victim envisages himself as two different persons with different characters, even contradictory characters. When he is person A, he remembers nothing of person B and vice versa. Okay? This is one. This complex phenomenon proves the importance of memory and seems to suggest that memory is that which defines personality. But it is not so. But on the other hand, we have the phenomenon of hypnosis in which in the subliminal condition, there is no remembrance of waking life events. So too, in the waking condition, there is no remembrance of past lives. Personality remaining the same, memory fails. Then he has not spoken about dementia, but I mean, I have not mentioned dementia, but I have to add that. And finally, we have the case of the yogin who transforms himself from a natural man with imperfections, anger, greed, grief, to a deep sage where his imperfections have largely disappeared. In this case, there is a complex change of personality without loss of self-identity and memory. He knows himself to be the same person by memory, but with a new personality where ego has disappeared, anger, greed, grief are alien to him. So this is what he's saying. But I have not included dementia and the other cases that I'll have to add. I'll do that as soon as I can. That was the first reading. When I read 4 or 5 years ago, this is the summary I made then. But now I would have made a different summary because I'm understanding so much more. It's very interesting. Huh? So they have got 5 minutes more, so we can read the next paragraph. But I found it absolutely fascinating. I wonder if you also found it interesting because he's discussing so many things. Okay. No response from anybody. Okay. So let us read the next one. So,
Rangada, I have a question.
Yes, tell me. Tell me.
Why we have discussed this particular stanza of memory where you have a dementia, the personality is the same, but the dementia you lose your memory. What is exactly you want to tell us behind this? I didn't get that point. Exact point.
Oh, you mean the dementia part?
No, the entire paragraph, I don't know, but it is like a more of a like a doctor's side or why he has put this particular in the memory. This has nothing to do with the divine things or related with the spiritual aspect, no?
No. This is in the physical world. These phenomena occur. In the spiritual planes of consciousness, your memory is fine. Your memory becomes very vast. It includes even past lives. In the physical world, in normal man, these are the phenomena that occur. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing spiritual about it.
Ah.
Nothing spiritual about it. It's all phenomena in the physical world. Whether it is hypnosis also, it's only in the physical world. Okay? So all the different cases we have discussed, fascinating. And I'm just giving you, I told you about two things. If you want to know more about it, I think it's the three faces or two faces of Eve. That's the movie. It's a black and white movie because it was made long ago. And it's a very interesting one where the Americans, the psychologists, discovered that there is a phenomenon called split personality. Now it's very common, everybody knows. But and there's another thing. On the internet also, if you type split personality, you will get videos of living persons who are still living and who experience a split personality. And the split personality ceremony is discussing only two, but it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 5. It can be very interesting. Okay, so Sunki, you read the next, the ego sense.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Rangada, can I ask about the paragraph you explained now?
I didn't follow.
Can I ask a question about the paragraph?
Yes.
You did now?
Certainly.
Yes. You know, it is, as you said, it's really interesting, and I wonder, you know, the sense of I and personality. So ego and personality here, it's a kind of a similar and also different. So yeah, if you say, because I remember Sri Aurobindo mentioned in one place, the sense of I is really tricky. So it's really hard to identify. And I thought that's really interesting. So could you say a little more about the sense of I and ego and personality?
It's a very good question because Sremda also is of an I with double quotes. Now, just now, right in the beginning today of our class, I said that everything from the highest level is there in the lowest level, but it goes on changing its character, right? So this I at the highest level is a true individual. When the divine is making souls, you are a soul which is essentially divine, but you have characteristics. Okay, some person is made, one soul is made into a generous person, another person is made into a brave person, another person is made into an artist sensitive to beauty. So these are the characteristics. There is a swabhava and there is a swadharma. The swabhava is the character of the soul. But as it keeps coming down, this character becomes that of the personality of the body-mind life. There is no body-mind life for the Jivatman at the higher level. There is no body-mind life. But that Jivatman, when it comes down and takes a body-mind life, even your body-mind life has been created by nature. It's your parents who have given you that, and your parents are part of nature. So it is nature that creates your body, mind, life. So this I that he is speaking about can be at the highest level. It is a true individuality. And when you are doing yoga, when you go into the higher levels of consciousness, you realize that you are the real I, the true individuality, who is not limited. He is cosmic, but is a true individual. But when you keep coming down, you cannot lose your sense of identity. So nature gives you an ego, which is the shadow. The ego is the shadow of the real I. Okay. So when he is speaking of an I, at the lower level, it is ego. At the higher level, it becomes the true personality. But both have characteristics. Even the soul has characteristics and character, and even the body mind life has got characters.
Rangada, then ego is a necessary one. We need the ego before doing yoga. Can you say that? Can you say that?
When you are doing yoga, some form of the ego is very difficult to get rid of. So even there is sometimes even a spiritual ego. But that ego is not as gross and as violently assertive as it normally is in man. Okay, but some sort of see, I told you just now that real person and the ego at the bottom. See, there's a connection, na? There's a connection. The real personality becomes the false personality at the body mind life level, and that's the ego. But there is a connection, it's a shadow. There's always a connection between the shadow and the one who is throwing the shadow. So that's what you have to understand. There's a gradation. So even in the spiritual fields, sometimes the lingering shadow is there, not as gross as it is here. That's what you call a spiritual ego. It's much subtler, but it is still there.
Okay, thank you. Very subtle.
I hope you understood.
Yes, it's a good, good and good explanation. Thank you.
Okay, so we read next week actually. The ego sense is only a preparatory device. So Sunki, you have to note down.
Yes.
Page 539. The ego is only.
Yes, I'll make a note.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Think about what you have discussed today. Very interesting. The 2 paragraphs yesterday and today what we have discussed. Highly interesting.
Thank you, Rangada.
Okay, over everybody. Have a nice day.